The story begins with our hero Park, a hardworking delivery agent who spends almost all his time working. After a long day, he and his friend go to pick up an order for a customer from a restaurant. As his friend enters the restaurant, he accidentally bumps into a girl and a boy who were coming out. He quickly apologizes and goes inside to collect the order. But as Park stands outside waiting, the boy who was with the girl suddenly drives his car recklessly and hits them at full speed, making them drop the food they were carrying. Unfortunately, one of those orders actually belonged to Park's own customer, not his friend's. So Park picks up what fell and chases after the boy on his motorcycle. Riding at full speed, he manages to stop the car on the road. He throws the lost order into the car and tells the boy he forgot to pay for the food he dropped. The boy gets scared and reluctantly gives Park the money. After that, Park visits his younger brother Jin, bringing food with him. They talk about Jin's studies. Park tells him not to worry if he fails and shows him the design plans for his new shop that's about to open soon. Jin jokes that Park's taste is exactly like their mother's, saying he must have inherited it. Before leaving, Park reminds Jin that he'll visit their mother's memorial alone and tells him to focus on his studies since his exams are near. Before he leaves, he transfers some money to Jin so he can spend it. Instead of resting, Park goes to his new shop and starts preparing it with his friends. His girlfriend Soji asks if he's decided to quit his delivery job to focus on the new business. He replies, "No, I have to keep working until our business is stable. I have loans and responsibilities. Maybe I rushed into this. I should have waited until Jin finished his studies." She tells him, "No, you did the right thing. Waiting only slows us down." The next morning, Park prepares breakfast for his girlfriend, gathers his things, and hurries out to throw away the trash. He's always meticulous about his work. While delivering an order, he notices a plant about to die from too much sunlight, so he writes a note. "This plant is dying from the sun. Keep it in the shade." As he leaves, an old woman stops him and asks for help carrying her bag to the end of the street. As always, Park can't say no, so he helps her before returning to work. Later, during his break, while eating, he hears a phone ringing nearby. A woman calls saying the phone belongs to her and asking him to bring it to a certain place. She promises a reward if he delivers it because her mother is sick and she can't come herself. Park rushes to the address but finds it's a strange spot, an empty tunnel. He calls her and she says her mother's condition got worse and she couldn't come. She also says she doesn't want a strange man coming to her house at midnight, so she asks him to leave the phone in a phone booth inside the tunnel and take the money. Park does as she asks, puzzled about why she chose such a place. As soon as he finishes, a car's headlights flash in front of him, startling him, but the car just drives past and disappears. The next day, Park goes to his mother's memorial. To his surprise, Jin also shows up so he wouldn't be alone. Later that day, someone knocks on Park's door. When he opens, several people storm in, claiming to be police officers. They announce that he's under arrest for rape and murder. We learn that he's a suspect in the murder of a woman in her 20s. Her mutilated body was found in the Han River. Reporters and everyone keep asking, "Why did you kill her?" Park is completely confused and swears he doesn't even know her. He begs them to let him go, saying his shop is open and his plants will die if he doesn't water them. The investigator snaps at him. "You think this is a vacation? You're accused of murder." They refuse to let him make a phone call and start taking DNA samples to confirm if he's connected to the crime. The next day, his friends come to visit him. Park asks them to take care of his plants for a few days until he's released, but they tell him he doesn't understand what's happening. His name and face are everywhere in the media, branded as a killer. His shop's address is public now, and people have vandalized everything he built. When Park returns for questioning, he breaks down in front of the investigator, begging him to let him go, and warning that once he's proven innocent, he'll sue them. The investigator replies coldly, "Prove your innocence first." The media twists the story, saying Park killed because he had an unstable job, no college education, and was struggling financially. Hearing this, Soji decides to hire a lawyer for him. She goes to visit him and is shocked to see him in handcuffs. When she asks if he has anything to say, Park desperately tells her he didn't kill anyone and doesn't understand why he's there. She replies, "I knew you could never do something like that. Don't worry, I'll stay by your side no matter what." The lawyer tells them they need to prove Park's alibi at the time of the crime. Unfortunately, the exact time of death is unclear, so they must show where Park was over the last 2 days. Soji says he was working non-stop every day, not wasting a single second. His friends add that all the delivery records should be saved in the system. That way, they can reconstruct his timeline. Park meets with the prosecutor and insists on proving his innocence. He tries to recall every moment of the past 2 days, where he was, who he met, and which orders he delivered. With Soji's help, he lists all the delivery locations and receipts to back his story. They organize everything by time, and everything checks out, except for one missing half hour. Jin meets him and helps him remember. After struggling, Park finally recalls that during that half hour, he was fixing his motorcycle. They retrieve footage from nearby cameras, and it confirms his story. Even the lawyer is astonished that someone who worked that tirelessly could ever commit a crime. The next day, the trial begins. The lawyer tells the judge that Park is a diligent young man who works tirelessly, and with all his duties, he had no time or reason to commit murder. The courtroom seems convinced, until the prosecutor steps up, stating confidently that GPS tracking data fully confirms his timeline. He, the lawyer, tells him there are a few things he wants to confirm with him in person to prove his innocence. He shows him an address where he delivered an order and tells him that was the victim's address. He says that when he arrived and got out it was 7 minutes past the time and asks why the delivery would take 7 minutes. Park remembers the exchange about the plant, the note he'd written on it, and the prosecutor asks, "What does that scene mean?" He shows him the security footage of Park running with the bag, the same bag the old woman had asked him to help with, and recounts the old woman's conversation. No one believes him, and the prosecutor confirms, "Is this the bag?" Park says, "Yes." The prosecutor replies, "This bag, this is the victim's bag." Park collapses. He doesn't understand anything. The prosecutor continues, "What about the victim's phone that you had? What was that about?" That's the phone Park found and tried to deliver for the girl in the tunnel. The tunnel was very close to where the body was found, which makes the case against him even stronger. Stranger still, the victim was apparently murdered in an empty apartment above her own, and inside her body they found traces that match the type of DNA that match his. Park breaks down and looks at Soji, telling her he didn't do anything. He didn't kill her. He pleads with the prosecutor, swearing he's innocent. Security pulls him away while the prosecutor says that even the plant he mentioned isn't in that building at all. Park is devastated, screaming that he didn't do it. Soji collapses in anguish. After that, Soji goes to visit him, and they learn that his lawyer has given up the case. There will be no more defense, and the sentencing is close. They ask about the bracelet the two of them wore. Park says he doesn't know where it is, that he was wearing it. Soji breaks down and keeps asking what happened. Then they learn that the lawyer has informed them the defendant should show remorse and confess in order to get a reduced sentence, and that he won't wait. Park tells Soji again that he didn't do anything. She tells him to let go of the bracelet, releases him, and walks away. He's dragged back to prison, terrified by everything around him. In prison, they process him like any other inmate. Then a little-known lawyer comes to visit. He has been following the case and senses something's wrong. He tells Park, "I don't believe you killed her or even met her before." But nobody believes Park the lawyer agrees to help, on the condition that Park tell him every detail, because those details will help. Park tries to remember anything. He says that during the trial, they showed an image of the crime scene containing his bracelet, but he was so shocked and distracted that he couldn't speak. Then he insists the bracelet could not be his, because he never went to that place. He remembers, however, that he slept briefly in his brother Jin's room before finishing his shift, and he says the bracelet must have fallen there. He asks the lawyer to keep this information secret and give him the address. The lawyer tells him not to tell anyone. Park is then returned to his cell, shouting and calling to the guard, but the guard hands him over calmly. In the cell, there is a clearly dominant inmate, the big boss of this prison. He asks Park how long he'll be imprisoned. Park is terrified and tries to run, but the boss's men catch and beat him. They make it clear, if Park repeats his words twice, they will cut his hand off next time. They tell him he's been sentenced to life and that there's no mercy. Park swears he's innocent. They laugh and throw him back into his cell. His cellmate warns him he has drawn the boss's attention and that he's in very big trouble. Prisoners throw paper insults and taunt him about the brutal crime. Park is petrified and clings to the lawyer's card, his only hope now. At mealtime, he is afraid to sit near the boss. Other inmates know he's a criminal with a huge gang outside, wealthy and dangerous, someone who raped and killed. Every new inmate accused of rape is destroyed in this prison until he ends his life. Park nearly does the same, but someone, hearing Jin's voice in his memory, shouts at him to return to life and endure. Jin had always loved tending plants and had told him to be patient. Park wakes up in a hospital and they tell us this is not his first attempt. This is the third. They sedate him heavily because of his dire state. He refuses visitors and won't speak to anyone. Meanwhile, the cellmate, an older convict, sees Park's attempts at self-harm carved into his arm. He tells Park that he has served 15 years in this prison and still can't get used to anything. Yet he learned to adapt. You must adapt too, he says. Despite the darkness and the suffocation, you must live. Park completely breaks down and cries a great deal. Over time, we see him trying to adapt. Each time he is beaten, he trains harder. He learns, works, plants, and endures the blows and the humiliation. He eats under duress, numbs his pain, cares for his plants more, studies more, and trains more, until the time comes that he defends himself, but they keep piling on and beating him harder. Still, he gains courage to continue training. The older inmate always pushes him, encouraging him to earn many certificates. 5 years later, we see him emerge as a different man. A figure, a council chief, tells him, "I'll fix everything for you, then we'll be friends." He sits in front of a huge screen as if controlling the world and selects a certain young man in particular. We return to Park and his plants, which have grown. A guard, always checking if someone bothers Park, asks him if anyone bothers him. Park says, "No, I'm used to it." The guard brings him a plant and asks how to care for it. Park says, "Leave it to me and I'll fix it." After he leaves, the older inmate appears and brings him sweets for no special reason. He removes his bracelet and places it on Park, speaking to him as if he's saying goodbye. He tells Park there is something that happened. He will be released from prison today, and he has told the older inmate that Park will become his assistant starting tomorrow. Park is very sad at his friend's departure and stays with him until the gate. There he sees the young man, the same boy the anonymous figure had chosen when talking to the council chief, and he tries to treat him just like the older inmate did. The boy tells Park his story. He found a phone and was told he would receive a big reward if he delivered it, but the cameras recorded him and used the footage against him. They found items of his at the crime scene, even though he never committed the crime and had never been there before. Park realizes this is exactly what happened to him. The boy says he had a strong alibi, but a certain prosecutor, or official, came to him, gave him a card, and after talking to him, the alibi evidence disappeared. He realized the man wasn't a true prosecutor and was definitely conspiring with them. The boy says his mother ended her life because of him, but his mother had always said that ending your life would mean you'd forfeit God's forgiveness. So how could she do that? Park crumbles, recognizing the same pattern that ruined his life. The next day, Park discovers the boy attempted suicide and is shocked. He asks to meet the official, the fake prosecutor, claiming he has new evidence and tells him the boy tried to take his life and that he learned the boy's mother had also ended her life. The official scoffs, "You have no evidence. Why did you bring me here?" Then, in a rage, he attacks Park and tries to beat him up. Security pulls him away. The official then taunts Park, accusing him of planting the phone deliberately and framing the victim so that the boy's brother would find the bracelet and be killed so he wouldn't talk. He tells Park it's better to confess than to keep denying it, because the boy is dead because of him and he only wants to shift the blame to someone else. Park shouts back, "You're the one who killed him." The official retorts, "Yes, I killed him myself." He then threatens Park, "I swear I'll kill you." Park asks how that's possible, and the official laughs, steps closer, and says, "I advise you to take your life. Maybe then they'll reopen the case." He asks the guards to take him away and then calls someone on the phone saying, "We need to clean up our village," and apologizes to Park for the cost. He tells him he won't continue working with the church anymore. He tries to pry a nail out of the chair he's sitting on, hides it on himself, and then they go to a huge auction, an extravagant sale of expensive sculptures worth billions. The council chief keeps raising numbers against the boy. The boy keeps bidding higher and higher. Afterwards, the official calls him and asks, "How much do you want? Give it to them instead of what you're doing with me." The boy answers, "See how much your son's life is worth." The official replies, "If this sculpture doesn't go to me, consider our deal canceled. Let's see what happens." Back at the auction, the bidding continues. The boy continues to outbid everyone until the price reaches $6 billion. He could not bear it any longer and would have died. He couldn't handle it, so he lets the boy win the lot. Of course, the money is paid, and they take the sculpture to the wealthy boy's house in his car. It looks like the same boy who hit Park in the beginning and knocked him down, if you remember, but we'll confirm that later. Then the council chief speaks to him and tells him that the boy who broke down in court was his son. His son had ended his life by swallowing pages torn from a Bible until he suffocated. "So your son's case is closed," the chief says. "Go out and have some fun to ease your son's mind." Meanwhile, at the prosecutor's office, they told that boy they needed to clean up after themselves. The butcher, one of the prison gang, went immediately to do it. At that moment, the boss's men start harassing Park. He threatens them and orders the boss to keep them away from him. Next, we see that girl. She goes into the market looking for money everywhere. She mocks the photo of herself with Park. "You made a family and you think a prayer will wash away your sins?" Park doesn't answer or protest. He only says he delivered the order and has no money. She leaves him the payment for the order and walks away. She doesn't know the restaurant he's taken the money to, but he's shocked when the prisoner who runs that shop in the prison tells him what's happening with Park now. The boss is enraged at what Park did to him. The boss also hears the other inmates praise Park, so he storms out and beats them. A new prisoner arrives who clearly and intensely hates the boss. He threatens them and drags the boss before the prison chief, who seems exhausted by the filth around him. The chief tells the man that someone has to die. It can't be otherwise. If not, they'll be suspected. He hands him a list of new inmates' names, among them 2 men who have huge sums of money and no one knows where they hide it. Even the authorities themselves don't know, and the chief wants him to find it. That will be his task. Later, No comes to visit Park and tells him that the boss has taken notice and asks whether he has any ideas. Is there anything he wants the boss to do for him? Park replies, "No. I'm innocent and I want out of here." The boss orders one of his men named Guillaume to deal with Park because the boss himself can't act openly due to the warden's presence. Park stays awake constantly, writing down every step of the daily routine and the precise timing of everything so he won't be caught off guard. One day, the boy is placed in Park's cell. When Park seems asleep, the boy gets up and tries to kill him, but Park reacts faster. He strangles the attacker and waits for the boss to hear the news the next day. Yet Park walks out without a scratch. Guillaume gets a good thrashing and bears the look of confusion on his face. At lunch, he takes a tray and goes to eat near the boss's table, where the boss says to him, "Do you like what you're doing to him? Let's forget what happened and act normal." Guillaume replies, "You're worthless. Why should I act normal for you?" The boss sneers and brings up Guillaume's sister, who was assaulted. "You were the one who did that to her, weren't you?" Guillaume collapses and Park leaves him to be beaten. Yang, who cares deeply for Park, intervenes and pulls him away, ending the confrontation with the boss. Guillaume is placed in solitary confinement. If he objects, he could file a complaint, but he accepts the punishment. Earlier, Park had asked Guillaume for a sponge to do something with the plants, saying he needed to clean an area. Guillaume told him the area was occupied and he couldn't move right now, so Park hid the sponge under some soil in the plant bed and left it in the cleaning room. At night, Park tells Guillaume, "Decide what you did." Guillaume responds, "No, he only ordered me to watch you." Later, Park deals with the prisoner who cleans the area. When that cleaner doesn't show, an officer asks someone else to take his place. Park takes the keys and goes in. He quickly makes an impression of the key on the sponge and applies a material to reproduce the shape of the key he needs. Soon, a medical committee arrives. The butcher, a doctor-like thug, checks the list and sees Park's name among those slated to receive a vaccine, a prepared dose intended to end his life. At that moment, a guard asks Park to fix his car because the guard is going on a trip after lunch and wants him to delay lunch a bit and bring him some food when he returns. Park seizes the chance and quickly makes the key he needs. The guard returns and discovers the car isn't ready. He hears an engine running and rushes inside, finding someone working on a part of his car. He gives Park the food and asks him to wait while he inspects the car. Park places the food bag a little away and is searched. They find nothing on him. It becomes clear he put the keys inside the food bag. As Park is leaving, he notices someone watching him. That watcher attacks him from all sides. It's the prisoner who hates the boss and who asks Park to ally with him to kill the boss. Park refuses, saying he will think about it. The man leaves and Park remembers he told No about his escape plan, but No warned him not to attempt it. He couldn't jump over all those fences because the perimeter is tightly guarded. No said he would exit through the main gate himself rather than try to scale the walls. But when Park returns to his cell, he is surprised to find the prison chief there. The chief explains that after someone took the vaccine, they needed him to be fit because there's a big wrestling match and he's betting a great deal of money on it. Meanwhile, the butcher suspected that the prisoner was not Park, so Park goes to the match and approaches the boss's opponent, telling him, "You have to win them or you'll die." The opponent looks at him anxiously. Eager to carry out the escape plan, Park quickly grabs one of them, attacks him, and leaves him, telling him his time is up. But the guard stops in front of Park's cell with the butcher, asking for his number. He ends up missing the vaccine injection time, but then they give it to him anyway. As he takes the shot, he glances at the clock. Only 30 minutes left before his escape window closes. This is a chance that will never come again. He takes the injection calmly while the butcher, the one who administered it, sends word to his superior. It's done. Park has half an hour left to live. Park takes the nail and the key he made and sticks the nail into an electrical socket to short it. Instantly, the power cuts out, shutting down the cameras. The guards rush to fix the problem. Locking the room as they leave, Park uses his stolen key to open it, takes the guard's ID and sneaks into the storage room. He grabs a uniform and, on his way out, runs into someone coming in. He hides quickly. The guard searches but finds nothing and leaves. Park is weak and barely standing, unsure if he can really make it out. Outside, Yang, his friend, shows up for a visit and tells the officers he came for Park, but the visiting hours are over. The guard offers to escort him in and ask the warden's permission, but the warden yells at him about rats in the air ducts. Yang apologizes and says he'll come back tomorrow. Meanwhile, Park stumbles out, dizzy and pale, sitting among the people waiting for visits. He tears open a food bag to make it look like it's spilled, and while everyone is distracted cleaning up the mess, he slips out quietly. He barely makes it outside before collapsing on the street. At that same time, the deranged, psycho rich kid is watching a car race. Even though his team is winning, he's bored. He says he wants to see crashes, cars flipping, explosions, fires. The manager is horrified. That would be a disaster if anyone died. The kid smirks and says, "So you think people shouldn't die?" Then he goes home and builds a miniature racetrack out of blocks. His mother walks in. He turns to her and says, "By the way, I've decided to do it." She gives a twisted laugh. "I expected something like this from you. I'll even bring in a foreign company to help." Meanwhile, the main negotiator visits the warden, who trembles when the psycho boy enters with him. The negotiator tells the warden to follow his orders. The warden doesn't understand who this kid is, commanding him around like that. The boy says he's here to launch a very important project and hands him a bag filled with metal ingots, each worth 200 million. "If you complete the project," he says, "I'll give you 5 more bags like this." He starts recounting the warden's corrupt history, how he exploited inmates for money, got caught, and had all his fortune confiscated. Then he says mockingly, "Want me to return that money to you? Or do you still care about your prisoners' well-being?" The warden stammers, No, I don't care about them. Do what you want with them." The boy smirks. "Good. I'll give you a list of inmates who qualify for work outside prison. Pick me a few dangerous ones. The more thrilling, the better." The warden agrees immediately. Back at the prison, a guard friend of Park's discovers he's missing and reviews the surveillance. He realizes Park escaped through the main gate, unnoticed, following his plan exactly. Later, Park wakes up in the prison hospital. The doctor tells him he was found unconscious and brought there. Tests show a huge amount of rat poison in his system. It nearly killed him. But by sheer coincidence, it reacted with a vitamin he'd been taking, neutralizing most of the poison. The doctor tells him, "You should thank whoever gave you that vitamin. It saved your life." The guard enters, amazed. "So, Park, you tried to escape, took a massive dose of poison, but I'm certain you didn't take it yourself. Someone put it in your food. I'm sorry I didn't protect you properly before, I promise. I won't ignore you again. We've had plenty of dangerous inmates, but no one's ever tried escaping through the main gate like you. You'll be investigated once you recover." He adds, "Kexno wanted to visit you, but I thought it best to wait until you're better." Park smiles weakly and says, "Thank him for me. He saved my life without knowing." The guard replies, "I've never seen a prisoner like you, always thanking people. You must have been a decent man before all this. Later, the guard asks how Kexno saved him. The doctor realizes it must have been Kexno who gave Park the vitamin and that he's been secretly helping prisoners escape under the cover of Park's supposed suicide. Of course, nobody in their right mind would believe someone could escape and poison himself at the same time. It's absurd. Then the warden releases the prison boss from solitary confinement. The boss mocks him, saying everyone knows he's not angry about what happened. He's afraid of Park. The warden warns him not to mess with Park again. The boss asks where Park is and learns he's in the infirmary. He heads there immediately. Park senses something is wrong. Inmates are running toward the courtyard. The guard meets the doctor outside and asks, "Why are you here?" The doctor replies, "So I won't be responsible for what's about to happen inside." The guard rushes in, just as the boss and his men burst into the infirmary, ordered to kill Park. But Park isn't in bed, it's just pillows. Suddenly, Park appears and fights them. A group of prisoners block the doorway, preventing guards from entering. Outside, the guard Yang panics. Meanwhile, the warden holds a meeting with corrupt guards, tossing them piles of cash to ensure their loyalty to the Psycho Boys' secret plan. But Yang hits the alarm, summoning the emergency response team. The warden is furious. Inside, Park has already defeated most of the boss's men. Only the boss remains. He manages to stab Park, nearly killing him. The guards can't get in. Yang goes mad outside, screaming for help. The boss tries again to stab Park, but Park dodges at the last second, disarms him, and turns the weapon back. The boss screams, "Kill me!" Finally, the special forces burst in. The boss keeps yelling at Park to kill him. Park refuses. He only slices off the boss's ear. Despite everything, Park is sent back to solitary confinement. He wakes to Jin's voice echoing in his head, warning him not to attempt another escape. But Park whispers, "I have to. I'll never stop until I get justice." Suddenly, men burst in. Park, the boss, and several other prisoners are abducted by guards. They beat them brutally, shove them into a truck, and drive them to the Psycho Boys' deadly game, a twisted tournament. There are 12 inmates, all dangerous and powerful. The Psycho grins with excitement when he sees Park among them. "Perfect," he says. "This is going to be fun." We flash back to 5 years earlier. The boy, his hair already turning gray, doesn't remember what kind of disaster he caused. He's trembling as he talks to his father, saying the girl with him isn't breathing. He's not that old, but his face is pale with fear. He admits he's terrified. Then we cut to Johan, the psycho genius, sitting at a grand business party surrounded by elite company owners. He's focused on 3 men discussing a specific corporation. Suddenly, he cuts into their conversation, speaking confidently and sharing such deep insights about the company that they assume he's one of the employees. But he smiles and says, "Actually, I'm the owner of that company. And let's be honest, you're all here for women, right? Don't worry, I'll make sure your wishes are taken care of." He leaves them speechless, walks to the stage, and begins his speech. One of the men, whose own mother had cursed him before he left home, points at Johan arrogantly with his finger. Later that night, on his way home, a mysterious car stops in front of him. Suddenly, bam, someone appears and cuts that very finger clean off. He wishes he had never pointed it, but Johan doesn't waste it. He preserves the finger as part of his twisted art collection. For him, every crime scene is a piece of art, and his assistant always praises him, no matter how horrific the act. At that moment, Johan receives a call from a government deputy, informing him that his son has just committed a serious crime and begging Johan to handle it quietly. Johan calmly replies, "Greater than, keep your son in his place and don't touch anything." He walks to his giant digital wall display, where his team sets up 3D surveillance of the entire crime scene, every angle reconstructed as if he were standing there himself. He quickly discovers that the deputy's son ignored orders and made a bloody mess, scattering the body pieces all over the house. Now, Johan must find someone to take the blame. By chance, a delivery man named Park was dropping off an order near the crime scene at the time. Johan chooses him as the perfect scapegoat. His team tracks Park's life, his love for plants, his hard work, his girlfriend, his brother, and gathers everything about him. Johan becomes fascinated. He decides Park will be the killer. His forensics team breaks into Park's house, plants his fingerprints, DNA samples, and even retrieves discarded items from his trash to use as evidence. They erase every trace of the real killer and replace it all with Park's belongings, down to the smallest details. Even the bracelet on the victim's body becomes one of Park's, deliberately placed as proof. Johan makes sure to include hints like the dying plant, something that would link perfectly to Park's interests, just to make it believable. In the end, the case is closed. Park's brother kills himself from the shock. Once the setup is complete, Johan calls the deputy, assuring him that everything has been taken care of. He adds coldly, "Greater than people like us, the 1%, must be protected. The rest are just puppets made to serve." He even suggests the deputy take his son on a vacation so he doesn't suffer from trauma. Then we jump back to the present, when the prisoners are being transported to the mysterious island where the deadly competition will take place. The atmosphere is tense, like something straight out of Squid Game. Armed guards surround the area. Out of a rare moment of compassion, Johan orders that the prisoners be fed before anything else. They're taken to a lavish dining hall, their masks removed, revealing shock at the sight of gourmet food and luxury. But Dosko, one of the prisoners who despises the boss, senses danger. "This must be a trap," he mutters. Park, too, feels uneasy. The place looks too perfect. When Dosko spots Johan and tries to approach him, guards immediately raise their weapons to stop him. After dinner, the prisoners are taken to numbered rooms. Each has a personal uniform and private cell. Everyone is on edge. Even the prison warden seems nervous, suspecting that Johan has plans of his own. Later that night, while everyone sleeps, Park sneaks out, but guards patrol every corner. He hides, runs, and tries to escape, but soon laser sights from all directions lock onto him. He has no choice but to surrender. A sleek black car arrives. Johan steps out, calm and smiling. Greater than, "Where do you think you're going?" he says softly. "Do you know what I had to do to bring you here?" He opens the car door. "Greater than, get in. I'll take you back to your cell." Johan lets him go, then laughs. "You tried to run. Good. That tells me how desperate you really are." Park stops and glares at him, but the guards still have their lasers aimed at him. "Are you the one who brought us here?" he asks. "Yes," Johan replies. "Why?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is, you're here now, and you'll participate. There will be a race, and you must win. I've prepared a very special prize for the winner. Would you like to know what it is?" Park frowns. "You look familiar. Are you famous?" "Of course," Johan smirks. "All of you here are famous in your own ways." He walks away, and the lasers turn off. When Park returns to his room, Jung is waiting for him. Jung begs him to come to the boss's chamber, promising, "This time I'm on your side. I'll treat you like a brother." Park hesitates, but follows. Inside, he finds Johan and his armed men. He turns to leave, but Jung pleads, "Please stay! If you walk out, I'm dead!" Park stays reluctantly. The guards surround him. In a burst of panic, he grabs a broken bottle and presses it against Jung's neck. Instantly, the guards open fire. The next day, the prisoners are jolted awake by blaring sirens. They put on their suits and step outside. Johan appears on a high platform, speaking through a microphone and giant screens. "Welcome," he says. "Today's challenge is a car race. Each of you will have your own vehicle. No rules, only survival." One prisoner protests, shouting that this is illegal and that they can't be forced to participate. Without hesitation, Johan takes a guard's gun and shoots him dead. Everyone froze in terror after the shooting. Johan coldly asked if anyone else had objections, but no one dared to speak. He nodded in satisfaction and announced that the competition would continue since nobody wanted to withdraw. Moments later, a luxury car arrived, carrying a massive prize, $5 billion in cash. Johan declared that whoever came in first place would win it. The prisoners were told to head to the storage area, where each would find a car marked with their assigned number. He also said that anyone needing help or facing mechanical issues could call for assistance. The prisoners were ecstatic, believing heaven's gates had opened for them. But Park remained anxious and uneasy, sensing something darker beneath the surface. Soon after, Beck and the council chairman's son arrived at the race grounds. They greeted each other casually. Beck mocked that his prisoner had died long ago, while the chairman's prisoner had just died last week. Together, they joined Johan and his group of twisted elites, all of them laughing and celebrating the chaos, crashes, and bloodshed they were about to witness. Meanwhile, the prisoners entered the storage facility and found the cars, each one sleek, expensive, and customized differently. They began inspecting them carefully. Johan, on the other hand, finalized a deal with his rich friends, agreeing to make them founding members of his new underground death game. He planned to record everything, turn the entire race into a dark broadcast, and set up a massive betting system around it to earn millions. When one of his friends asked what reward they would get, he smirked to himself, knowing that none of the racers would ever leave alive. By lunchtime, the contestants were treated like celebrities, with an extravagant buffet spread before them. During the meal, one prisoner asked Jonga about his car. Jonga boasted about its appearance, though it was really just a pile of junk under the hood. Another prisoner advised him to see Park, who was skilled at repairs. Park, while busy fixing engines, was approached by another prisoner who suggested forming an alliance and offered to split the prize, asking only for an apartment or a car. Park rejected the idea, but the man hinted that Johan had ordered him to spy, pretending to be friendly to gain his trust. While Park worked, Dosko requested a private meeting with Johan, the first prisoner to ever do so. He handed Johan a note proposing long-term collaboration. Johan laughed mockingly and asked what he truly wanted. Dosko explained that the prison was filled with cameras and that the warden had designed this race as just the beginning of something bigger. He claimed he could help Johan use the situation to his advantage. Johan expected him to ask for money or a quick release, but Dosko said he didn't care about freedom or wealth. He simply wanted to join Johan's inner circle. He argued that if he were released early, he'd never get the chance to see Johan again. Johan found his confidence amusing. This was, after all, a man who had entered prison on 18 fraud charges. He suspected Dosko was just another manipulator trying to outsmart him. Annoyed, Dosko offered himself as a useful asset, saying he could provide anything, even illegal drugs, within half an hour if Johan ever needed them. Johan smirked and told him he'd think about it. Soon after, the prison leader arrived arrogantly, announcing that he didn't care about the prize money. He only wanted to kill one of the contestants. Johan reminded him that murder outside the race would be a crime, but inside the competition, it would count as part of the game. The leader, satisfied, said he wanted the race to burn with chaos, and Johan agreed. As preparations continued, Park inspected Jongho's car and confirmed it was a useless wreck. Meanwhile, racer number 4 threatened racer number 6, warning he'd cut off his leg if he didn't hand over his car keys. When 6 refused, 4 attacked him and stole the car. Dosko, observing all of this, began to understand what no rules truly meant, especially since the guards stood aside without interfering. He ordered his men to look for a better vehicle. They soon found car number 10, a luxury model, but Park was repairing it at that very moment. As Dosko's men approached, Jongha panicked and locked the garage door to stop them. They forced it open anyway, leading to a brutal fight. Park fought back fiercely, using the car itself as a weapon, crashing through the garage to escape. Everyone, including the gang and the prison leader, went after him. The leader's men tried to block the exit, but Park rammed through them. The leader, furious, saw this as the official start of the race and vowed to kill Park himself. Johan, watching everything from his command center, ordered his team not to interfere. The leader's men surrounded Park's car, resulting in violent collisions that left vehicles wrecked and burning. The leader then stole car number 6 and prepared to finish Park off. Park couldn't escape, and just as the leader charged at him, Dosko appeared, crashing into the scene. Johan became anxious that someone might die before the race even officially began. The guards fired warning shots to stop them. Chaos filled the air. The spectators cheered madly, enjoying the destruction. Johan finally ordered everyone to stand down, saying it was enough for now and to save the killing for the race itself. Jongha's car refused to start and caught fire. Park tried to help, but the vehicle exploded. The next morning, he went to confront Johan. They offered him drinks as usual, and he chose juice. He already knew the race wasn't really the goal. That's why Johan had gathered prisoners and given them luxury cars with no rules. He confronted Johan about the real purpose of the competition and noticed that Johan wasn't drinking anything himself. Johan casually handed him a sealed bottle filled with the same vitamin juice Park liked, saying his plants needed those vitamins more than he did. Then he left. It was always easy for Johan to replace Park's plants entirely if he wished, but Park devoted all his time to strengthening and upgrading his car, making sure every screw and engine part was perfect. Dosko, however, grew increasingly irritated by him, realizing Park was now his biggest threat, the only real danger standing between him and victory. While Park was busy working, Dosko overheard racer number 6 mentioning that he had replaced his car's original engine with another. Around the same time, Johann contacted Dosko to inform him that he had accepted his earlier offer and had left him a gift in the back seat of his car. Excited, Dosko checked and found it, thrilled to be chosen as Johann's favorite. Johann told him that only he could make the race truly entertaining. As the race was being prepared, Park looked toward one of the cameras, directly into Johann's eyes. That single stare felt strangely familiar to Johann, as if he had seen those same eyes before. He reminded the contestants that the race had no rules and that only one survivor would be the winner. Bets began to pour in before the start. Since there were no restrictions, chaos erupted immediately. One racer dragged another out of his vehicle, stole it, and sped off. The engines roared, tires screamed, and the madness began. Car number 11 veered off track, and surveillance cameras followed its movement. Racer number 2 was the fastest, until suddenly his car exploded mid-race. Watching the scene unfold, Johann's excitement mixed with unease. He shifted his gaze toward Park, who was calmly driving and focusing ahead. Johann studied him closely and began to recall where he had seen him before, years ago when he had spoken about plants. Then the realization struck him. Park was the same man he had chosen 5 years earlier to take the fall for Bayek's crime. Ironically, Bayek was now one of the wealthy sponsors betting on the race. Johann watched as the prison boss and his men began closing in on Park, surrounding his car between theirs. The boss pulled out a knife, intending to kill him. At that moment, Park's car, number 11, was shown off the track, and a drone was sent to locate him. When it reached the site, it found the car empty. Park had already escaped, riding a motorbike. He smashed the drone midair, leaving everyone watching in shock. The boss, furious, stabbed Jongha repeatedly, demanding to know where Park had gone. Then Park appeared before them on the motorbike, charging directly through the chaos. The boss tried to intercept him, but failed. Dosko, whose car was damaged beyond repair, arrived late and froze in fear when he saw Park flying over them with the bike, soaring through the air like a ghost. Everyone stared, speechless, as Park disappeared into the distance. Johann ordered Dosko to check the gift he had left for him. When he opened it, he found a handgun and was delighted. Johann directed him toward Park's route, commanding him to hunt him down and kill him. Park, meanwhile, had attached a gas tube to his motorbike, using it to accelerate faster. Dosko chased after him and fired several shots, but none hit. The gas tube ignited, launching both men through the air. The explosion sent Dosko's car flipping violently. Beck and his associates watching remotely cheered in thrill, but Johann's amusement faded. For the first time, he felt a mix of fear and rage. Park had survived every trap. He changed the rules of the game entirely. Whoever caught Park, dead or alive, would win the prize, and double the money. The racers went wild, scattering across the grounds in search of him. As Park tried to move from his hiding spot, the boss's car rammed into him, knocking him to the ground. The boss beat him brutally, but Park managed to grab his knife and fight back. Another racer intervened, attacking the boss to claim Park for himself. Suddenly, chaos broke out. Multiple cars collided, men were thrown to the ground, and in the confusion, one vehicle slammed into the boss, killing him instantly. Johann lost control. He grabbed a weapon, shouting for Park's location. When he spotted movement, he tried to shoot, but one of the racers grabbed him from behind, blocking his view. Enraged, Johann killed the man on the spot, shooting wildly and screaming Park's name. Bullets flew as Park tried to take cover. He waited for the brief moment when Johann stopped to reload, then took his chance. He jumped on the motorbike and sped away. Johann ordered the guards to stop him. Park rode straight toward the hovering drones. For a second, he locked eyes with Johann through the live feed, remembering the time Johann had once looked for him 5 years ago, not to kill him, but to trap him. He realized the only way out was upward. He released the gas tube once more. The burst of pressure propelled the bike high into the air. The tube collided with one of the drones, destroying it instantly and triggering an explosion that tore through the cars below. Johann stood frozen, watching in disbelief as Park flew above the flames, racing toward freedom. Johann aimed and fired one last shot. Park managed to escape by sea. The bullet had struck his calf. He stole some clothes, changed, and ran on in sheer terror. Exhausted and battered, he kept going until he reached No's shop. When No saw him, he fainted from shock. Park received care and slowly began to recover. Meanwhile, Johann watched the clothes Park had been wearing, confident that Park had survived drowning and would run again. The prison director was certain the story would never reach the press. He ordered a cover story, claimed the prisoners had suffered a gas leak while working. Prisoners were prisoners, he reasoned. Nobody would care about their deaths. The public would treat it as convenient news. When asked whether Park had escaped, the director insisted on keeping the matter secret. He would retrieve Park by his own methods, though he visibly trembled with fear. Park awoke to the comforting presence of someone who had visited him repeatedly but had often been denied access for no reason. The visitor apologized for being blocked and explained there were many questions to ask. He would wait until Park was well enough to answer. He warned that whatever Park planned next had to be executed from this place. Staying would expose him to charges of aiding escape. Park insisted the visits had come suddenly and that any help offered had been forced upon him. He handed over his phone so they could contact him if necessary. Afterward, Park visited his brother and thought about a lawyer. He recalled that the lawyer had said Park wasn't famous, yet somehow Park could reach him. Park kept following the lawyer's trail and felt someone tracking him. Fear rose. The lawyer called someone to check on him, and Park ran in panic until the footsteps trailing him fell silent. He laughed shakily, thinking he had imagined the whole thing, until he was startled by a sudden presence. Park turned to find the man who had been following him, who forced his way into Park's apartment and beat him, demanding a confession that Park had caused everything. Park insisted he had only cleaned the crime scene and acted under orders from his superiors. When asked who those superiors were, Park refused to name them, saying that if he did, they would kill him. The attacker threatened Park with death if he didn't talk, then left him trembling and desperate to find evidence. Searching the apartment, Park found a file of photos labeled with a woman's name, Sue. A knock came. Someone warned him that Sue was the next target. The man explained that his superiors had ordered him to fabricate evidence. They searched for ways to plant proof and then constantly monitored Park, collecting every scrap of his life, even his trash, to build airtight evidence that would trap him forever. The more evidence they could plant, the more likely their plan would succeed. Suddenly, the lawyer's contact burst in and started to strangle Park. It was the butcher who had pretended to be a prison doctor. A violent struggle followed until Park managed to overpower him. The lawyer arrived and beat the butcher, boasting about how much money they earned from this work and accusing Park of having taken advantage of his brother. Park denied killing anyone and charged at them, but they threw a couch at him and slammed the door shut. In a burst of desperation, Park grabbed the girl's file and hurled himself out the window, escaping with the documents. The lawyer was left behind, the first one taken down. Park fled with the file clutched tight. At that moment, Johan was finishing off his trainers. His mother watched as he calmly handled the phone call that told him Park had again slipped from the butcher's grasp. Johan left briefly for the butcher's location. The butcher turned away and tried to flee, but was caught. Johan returned, pulled a weapon, and stabbed him. Before dying, the butcher was forced to sign and name the recipient of an envelope full of cash. Blood stained Johan as he pressed the pen. The butcher's final words, and the blood left Johan enraged and exhilarated. He delivered the final stab, then called someone to dispose of the body. That someone had a corruption case in the past, and Johan had used him to get the man cleared. In return, Johan offered the man a deal: complete one mission and his legal troubles would vanish. Until then, all investigations would be frozen. The man accepted and was given a phone to contact Johan. The mission was to spy on a specific person. Park overheard all of this and, shaken, clung to the one who had helped him. He wept, asking how that person had tolerated everything. Even his embrace made Park uneasy. Promising help, the man swore to do whatever Park needed. Back at the prison, the guards raged and wanted to interrogate the prisoners who had been working outside. They needed to know how Park had escaped. The officers pushed to act, but the director ordered restraint. An investigator named Wang, or Ng, was present. He requested detailed access to Park's cell and records. During the visit, the investigator found Park had been an exemplary inmate who worked constantly. When asked about visitors, the investigator learned Park claimed to have no close relatives and had even refused visits from friends, who then stopped coming. The investigator examined the small chest beneath Park's bed, where Park kept notes and the detailed recollections of the crime written on sheets of paper. He promised to investigate further and to arrest anyone involved. Meanwhile, the woman in the photos worked long hours in a cafe and had a sick child named Rabu. Debt was visible in every line of her face. She owed a mountain of money and needed to repay it. Johan had arranged the frame-up that would pin the crime on her. Park watched her closely, trying to gather information, but feared approaching her directly. He knew she was being watched. He improvised, collecting electrical parts and building makeshift cameras to monitor her covertly, hoping to learn enough to protect her and to expose the conspiracy. He gave Park some money he had been saving, wanting to help him if he ever needed anything. Park refused to take it, but his friend insisted and told him not to tell anyone about this place. He had hidden the money carefully, afraid it might be stolen. By then, Park had already placed hidden cameras everywhere and spent most of his time quietly watching the woman. One night, he heard noises in the shop and discovered a young girl trying to steal the money. He shouted at her to return it, but she refused, so he hit her and snatched it back. Suddenly, another man entered and demanded that Park let her go. The girl told him to follow her, warning that if he planned to stay there, he would have to pay. She declared that she would return every week to collect money from him, and if he wanted to remain in the area, he had to start paying immediately. When Park tried to take out a small amount to give her, she took all of it and even struck him, saying that now they were even. His friend laughed softly and told Park not to take it personally, saying the girl simply had a dark heart and poor upbringing. But Park disagreed, insisting her heart was pure. Meanwhile, investigator Wang took Yang to the morgue, showing him the lawyer's body and claiming that Park had committed another murder right after leaving prison. Yang doubted it was possible, thinking Park wouldn't kill again. Wang showed him surveillance footage of Park fleeing a scene, noting the resemblance but remaining uncertain it was truly him. They decided to visit No, Park's close friend from prison, hoping for answers. Park, still secretly monitoring the woman, discovered that others were now watching her too. No explained that the syndicate always sent someone to shadow whoever they planned to frame for a crime. The key was that the planted person always carried the victim's phone, allowing them to track every move and establish proof of guilt through location data. The same pattern was now unfolding with Sue, the woman, meaning they were preparing to blame her next. Park realized time was running out. He took his old motorbike and raced off, just as another man was found murdered. Johan inspected the crime scene and swapped the actual murder weapon with a pair of scissors identical to those Sue used in her salon. The setup had begun. Sue was startled when a phone began ringing inside her shop. It was the victim's phone. Park arrived moments later and asked her daughter where her mother had gone. The child explained that Sue had left to return a forgotten phone to its owner. Park immediately understood what was happening. The little girl gave him the address, and he sped there. At the same time, the investigators arrived at No's place. Wang warned his partner to handle No gently because he feared the police, but his partner brushed him off, saying they weren't there for social calls. Inside, they questioned No about Park, when he had last visited, what he had said, what he had been doing. Then they searched his room despite No's protests. They were shocked to find No's daughter inside, furious that they were invading her home just because her father had a criminal record. She screamed at them, accusing them of harassment, and forced them out. No apologized to Wang afterward, saying he became anxious whenever police appeared. Wang apologized and left. Meanwhile, Sue got off the bus, unaware that surveillance cameras were tracking every step she took. She met the woman whose phone she was returning, apologizing for not bringing it earlier because her daughter was sick and she couldn't leave her alone for long. She handed over the phone and turned to go. But Park appeared suddenly, snatched the phone from her hand, and fled. Johan's men, who had been stationed nearby, immediately chased after him. Park raced through the streets at full speed, escaping once again. At that same moment, Johan was sculpting a new art piece, a statue modeled after Sue, with the real murder weapon hidden inside it. When he received the report that Park had stolen the phone, he smashed the sculpture in fury. His mother flinched at the noise, muttering that her son's temper was uncontrollable. Park informed No of everything that had happened. Together, they realized the syndicate's plan had collapsed because the phone, the key piece of evidence, was now in Park's possession. No warned him that the police had already visited and that he should leave before bringing trouble to their doorstep. But Park insisted that this was now the safest place for him. Later, Park used the victim's phone to call one of Johan's agents, pretending to sell it back for a huge sum of money. The woman on the line thought it was part of their operation and agreed to pay, telling her team to retrieve the phone and kill the man holding it. She followed his instructions to the letter. Park gave her an address and told her to bring the money to a delivery man. Her car followed the supposed courier. When she arrived, he told her the phone was in a mailbox behind the nearby building. She retrieved it quickly, exactly as he had planned, and got into a taxi while Park tailed her. Meanwhile, Johan met with the man who had ordered the retrieval. He scolded his subordinate for handling the matter without approval, saying the mistake was worse than the original one. As he spoke, the woman working with him fired a gun at close range, killing the subordinate instantly. Johan ordered her to finish the job and send him a photo when it was done. The woman with the phone arrived at a forensic laboratory, with Park right behind her. He overpowered a worker, stole his uniform, and slipped inside. There, he found a secret facility where they were sorting through evidence and debris from multiple cases, exactly as the lawyer had once described. Park began recording everything. At the same time, Johan's deranged female accomplice reached Sue's salon. When she called Johan, everyone around Sue could hear the ringing phone and saw Park. The situation unraveled quickly. Workers attacked Park while the woman locked the door behind Sue and pulled out a weapon. Sue panicked, offering money, but the woman said she only wanted her hair done. Then she lunged at her. Park fought the workers, leaping from a high ledge to escape. The psycho woman threatened Sue, saying she could kill her daughter too. Sue grabbed her scissors to defend herself, but the attacker was faster, trying to strangle her. Just as Sue was about to die, Park burst into the shop and fought her off. She sprayed something in his eyes and stabbed him several times, but he managed to push her away until police sirens wailed outside. She fled in panic. Park was wounded, but alive. Someone told him to run. The police were closing in. Meanwhile, Johan, watching the scene remotely, laughed, fascinated by Park's persistence. His mother entered, telling him visitors had arrived. He was surprised. He wasn't expecting anyone. When he stepped out, he found Beck and his father waiting. Beck confronted him, furious, holding a photo of Park. He accused Johan of deceiving him, saying Park was the one who had blown up the stadium. Johan admitted it. Beck snapped, reminding him of his earlier words, that anyone framed for a crime had chosen his own fate. Beck realized that his own case hadn't been over after all. Beck flew into a rage and saw red. He stalked the streets like a wild man. Johan watched calmly and only smiled. Beck's father offered a large sum to calm him down, trying to buy reassurance that everything would be fixed. Beck swore he would settle the matter by the end of the week. If it wasn't resolved, he would come himself. Johan's look was cold and threatening. It promised that Beck might end up as one of Johan's trophies, a body to be displayed among his masterpieces. Beck approached Johan angrily, warning him not to treat their relationship like that of a master to a servant. Johan remained dismissive, insisting he had never considered Beck a subordinate. Beck left, vowing to catch Park and kill him with his own hands. He tossed his cigarette and walked off furious, while Johan smiled that same terrifying smile that promised every shade of torment. When Beck exited, his father ordered him to calm down and to continue searching until Park was arrested. Johan told his mother that threats had already begun. Her advice was to handle the matter however he saw fit. News arrived that Park had kidnapped Sue's daughter, and Beck seethed, restless and enraged. He announced that someone's life might be taken and a gift delivered to another, and that other person was to be Park. Park longed to reach Sue, and Johan offered to help him, which soon made it easier for them to find one another. At that time, Eon entered Park's room and saw photos of Sue's daughter. She suspected Park of spying on Sue or planning harm. She was shocked to find them together and taken aback by Park's tenderness toward the child. Sue herself was stunned by the extent of the scheme being built around her. Park explained that she had been under surveillance and that the conspirators already knew intimate facts about her life that she had never revealed. They demanded she disappear, go somewhere no one would find her. Park looked to Eon, believing she could help. Eon led Sue to the small room she shared with a friend and thanked Sue for helping Park. Sue then discovered her father standing outside, surprised to finally know where his daughter lived. Sue dragged Park aside and demanded to know who he truly was and whether he had killed anyone. He refused to answer at first. Sue threatened to evict them all if he did not tell the truth, and Park had no choice but to speak. The revelation kept Sue awake all night, unable to stop thinking about it. Park appeared nervous. When he finished, he revealed Eon's name and asked that if anything happened, people should contact a certain number. He admitted he had been anxious because he had finally found his daughter's address and number, things he had never known before. He laughed wildly, baffled by his own discovery. He insisted the girl was not rude, that she was kind. He had only taken from her something she had once loved, Returning home, he was shocked to see news of a murder at the piano, the very crime they had planned to frame Sue for. They had placed the blame on someone else this time. The real killer turned out to be the minister's son. As usual, Johann advised the minister to take his son away for a while to preserve his public image and forget the incident. Park was shaken. Park went to the evidence collection site and discovered that anyone who had entered that place, even by accident, was being killed. Johann's son congratulated him privately, pleased that his problems had been resolved so easily. Park shouted that the hardships they faced were intentional, people framed and shamed until their lives imploded. Then Park heard a sickening sound, the butcher's head thrown at his feet. He screamed, horrified, and found a file with his name and photographs beside an envelope stamped with his name. Inside the envelope was money, payment, and a cold, final proof that Johann had again outmaneuvered him. Park collapsed in grief and rage as Johann revealed, via screen, that Bayek was the true murderer in his own case, and that Bayek must pay the price. Meanwhile, the police officer and the detective were still searching for Park. They were so determined that they even reached out to his closest friends, but their friends answered them boldly, saying, "Why are you asking about our friend? Isn't he supposed to be under your protection?" At the same time, Uni and her father, Chari, were also looking for Park, who had vanished like he'd melted into thin air. Uni looked extremely worried about him, but she managed to trace his phone and found that he was in Busan. Immediately, she and her father rushed there, and the detective, San, also discovered the same location. Shiok, who was with him, felt anxious because he knew they were getting closer, but deep down, he was certain that Park was innocent. When we flash back in time, we see that Park had actually called Officer Shiok, telling him that he was going to look for proof of his innocence. Meanwhile, Danji was attending his parents' memorial ceremony, where he met his aunt. She told him she wanted to stay with him for a while. At that moment, the family's long-serving housemaid and secretary, who had raised him like a mother, caretaker, and everything in one, got out of the car. Danji jokingly asked her, "Why do you keep all that stuff inside the car?" She replied coldly, "You know well that no one in your family can stand me." She then suggested he go back home since there were some things she needed to take care of. Soon we see what those things were. She killed them all. The real shock came when we found the aunt lying on the floor, bleeding heavily. The aunt weakly asked the secretary whether Danji knew the truth about his mother or not. The woman spat hateful words, calling his mother a filthy prostitute, saying that if he knew, he would be disgusted. That's when we finally understand where Gang inherited his sadistic nature. Out of twisted love and jealousy, the woman stabbed the aunt in her eye to stop her from leaving the house. The aunt looked at her in disbelief, unable to process the madness she was witnessing, before the woman finished her off completely. Back in Busan, Park was spying on the criminal who had caused him to be imprisoned for years. As he got closer, he tried to secretly record the man's confession, but the criminal's men suddenly attacked him. We leave that scene and return to Gang, who was staring at the secretary, his real mother, though he didn't know it. He asked about his family. "Weren't they supposed to come tonight?" She replied with a straight face, "They all died in an explosion. The house burned down." Gang smiled darkly and said, "I have a feeling you're the one who did it." Then he called the criminal, saying, "They caught Park. Do you need anything from him? Or should I finish him off myself? You think she'd be upset if I did?" At that same time, Park regained consciousness, tied up and beaten inside a locked room. Outside, Uni and her father arrived, and so did the police. Shiok and San went in first, but the criminal's men blocked their way. San warned them, "If you don't let us in, it's not going to end well for you." They finally entered and split up from two directions. Meanwhile, Park struggled to untie himself. When the criminal came in, he found the room empty. Park had escaped, thanks to Chari helping him. But as they tried to get away, the police surrounded them. The old officer looked at Park and said, "Son, I know you're innocent. Please don't make me stand here begging for a chance to prove it. We live in a country of justice. Follow the law." Cherry just glared, wondering what kind of justice he was talking about when people like his family were destroyed by corruption. But he didn't reply. Suddenly, San appeared and shouted in triumph, "Finally, I caught you!" but before he could move further, Uni hit him on the head with a fire extinguisher. They managed to escape again. As San tried to block their way once more, Uni sprayed the extinguisher in his face, blinding him completely so he couldn't even recognize her. She then took Park to her home. Her friend, surprised to see them, asked, "You keep bringing new people every time. Who's this one now?" That night, Uni stayed beside Park, falling asleep on the floor next to the table while he lay nearby. When he woke up, she was still fast asleep. He smiled faintly, and we learned that Park had successfully recorded the criminal's confession. The man admitted that Gang was the mastermind behind everything. "I just throw out the trash," the man had said, "and someone else comes to pick it up." Park sent all the evidence to Officer Shiok, hoping he'd help him, just like he'd promised. The criminal, realizing what happened, immediately called Gang, asking if there'd been a leak during Park's escape. Gang laughed mockingly at Park's cleverness, confident he still had control. That night, Park prepared weapons to defend himself. He wasn't planning to let the criminal get away this time. He practiced his aim over and over, his eyes filled with fire. Meanwhile, later that night, Gang was suddenly attacked by masked men. Though they outnumbered him, he managed to defeat them all viciously. On the other side, we finally learned why Chari had been imprisoned. He told Park, "One day I had a fight with my wife. I got angry and threw my cigarette on the floor, then left the house. When I came back, it was on fire. But it wasn't an accident. Someone did it deliberately. Everyone in the neighborhood saw how much we fought." At that very moment, Gang was on the phone with Detective San, demanding that he find Park no matter what it takes. The next day, Park continued training with sharp weapons, getting faster and more precise. Uni entered the room. It was obvious now that she had fallen for him deeply. After talking to him, she told him she was heading to the supermarket and asked softly if he wanted anything. A few minutes later, we saw her there, but unfortunately, Detective San was in the same place. He looked at her suspiciously. Her face seemed familiar, though he couldn't quite remember. He was holding a fire extinguisher and tried to speak to her, but she grew nervous, panicked, and hurriedly got on a motorcycle. San immediately chased her through the streets until she reached home. Exhausted and frightened, she scolded Park for not answering his phone. Right away, Park put on his helmet, jumped on the motorcycle, and fled. Detective San arrived just then and saw Uni and her father sitting in the car. He almost lost his mind, realizing once again that Park was always one step ahead of them all. After Uni and her father returned home, they found Bella and Gang there. Bella's friend was lying on the floor, unconscious. Gang had come specifically to confront them. "Why are you helping Park?" he demanded. "How much are they paying you? Isn't there no human being left who helps someone without getting paid?" He taunted them cruelly and pressed again. "What's going on between you? He's the one who finished your mother." Uni snapped at him and was about to hit him, but he stepped back down the stairs. Even Chari couldn't leave him alone. He smashed the hand that had touched Gang's jacket. Before he left, Gang made sure they understood that both their souls belonged to Park now. Park, meanwhile, continued his breakfast at the criminal's place. He entered with the tool he had prepared to defend himself, ready to finish everyone there if he had to. And he almost did. When their boss realized Park might overpower them all, the criminal fled. Park stood and chased, and as he closed in, he drove a burning skewer into the man's body. The criminal tried to strike back, but Park repelled him and won. When it seemed our hero might finally finish him off, he refused. No one asked him why. He kept pursuing the criminal and the boss, and the man who earlier refused to end things fled, running so hard it looked like virtue itself was chasing him. Park managed to get into a car, clear it, and drive it himself to catch up with the criminal. The chase ended when a heavy collision slammed into them both. The criminal gasped his final breaths in Park's hands. Park's phone rang. He answered. It was Gang calling. When Gang didn't get an immediate response, he realized Park had taken care of them all and laughed softly, calm, wicked, calculating. Park kept glancing around until he spotted Gang standing at a distance. Gang called out, offering him a place in his operation, tempting him with ways to hide evidence so innocent people would be left unpunished. Gang's posture looked confident, but beneath it he was nervous and bitter, resentful of Park's clean reputation and determined not to let Park remain untarnished. Immediately, Gang turned his attention to the criminal's father and went to finish him off, telling a short, sorrowful story about his life. that his parents had died and left him at 12, so he took their lives himself because he learned they would give their fortune to charity, so he refused to let it go to good causes, and instead ended their lives. He raved like a madman. His men arrived, tidied up the mess, and Gang decided this time to frame someone close to Park. He went straight to Chari's house and began plotting what to do. Finding a photo of Chari with his daughter, Gang set it ablaze. The next day, Chari was arrested on charges of murdering a famous businessman. Uni defended him as best she could, but all the evidence stacked against him. His letters extorting businessmen, the threats, the fabricated accusations. No matter how Chari tried to explain or defend himself, they beat him down. Park ran to the scene and found surveillance footage. He grew furious that no one had noticed something so obvious. He found Uni outside the door, wiping away something she had written about her father. Chari took her aside. For the first time, she snapped and told him, "If anything happens to you, I won't be able to live. I can't bear it." Then Gang called and offered Chari a deal. He would arrange for Chari's release if Chari cooperated, and he dangled an enormous sum of money to buy that cooperation. He practically blackmailed Chari's life. Park remained steadfast and refused to yield, which infuriated Gang. He paced, muttering that all good people were foolish, and in a rage he threw his phone. No, he hurled his iPhone down to the floor. Chari sat in the detention cell and remembered his life with his daughter, especially the day she had visited him during his sentence. He recalled how injured she had been and how, when he asked why, she said she had been beaten in the street because of the accusations against him. She promised not to visit again because he had work to do. She had broken down and cried, having no one but him. Fear had made her hide her feelings. After he served his term, he returned a changed man. In the present, Uni visited him. During a long conversation, he told her that, to protect her, he would have to confess to the crimes himself. Either he would be arrested or she would be left exposed. He found it impossible to accept this. He went home and wandered through memories, surprised by how much he felt when Park took the blame for him and confessed in his place. Chari managed to escape from prison later, and Uni scolded him. She was angry, exhausted, and asked, "Why did you do that? Why did you confess to something you did not do?" Chari explained that he hadn't escaped. Park had confessed inside the prison for him and shouldered the entire charge. That wounded Gang's ego deeply. He believed Chari deserved two things, and for those mysteries you'll find out in the comments below, he said. Gang kept demanding an answer. "Why don't you answer the question? Why do you sacrifice your lives for someone else?" Park replied that the question itself was shameful to ask. Gang left angrily and called his boss, telling him to finish Park as soon as possible. The next day, we learned Park was to be deported. The officer in charge was Shiok, but halfway to the transport, Shiok stopped the vehicle. When Park got out to use the bathroom, Shiok drove in his place. Park was bewildered. Where was he being taken? Shiok opened the door, removed his handcuffs, and told him to run and never return unless he came with proof of his innocence. When we flash back, we learn that after Park had obtained evidence against the real criminal, he had planned to deliver it to the head of the bureau. At that moment, Gang overheard everything and decided he would finish Park himself, taking back his earlier words. Meanwhile, Park met with Chari and Uni, who were waiting for him. Together, they began preparing a defense plan. Park took them to another location and showed them the security cameras installed there, assuring them that this was the safest place for now. Elsewhere, the department director informed Gang that Park was dead, but Gang didn't believe it. That wasn't Park's nature. He told his secretary to prepare the house because an important guest was coming tonight. Back with Park, he and the others were still making plans. From their conversation, we learned they had discovered that every crime occurred before an auction and that a statue was sculpted to resemble each victim. When those statues were sold for massive sums, that money became Gang's profit. From here, things began to escalate. In one direction, Officer Shiok was arrested by the Ministry of Justice for corruption and embezzlement. In another, Park put on his helmet, and every time he did, it meant disaster was near. He drove toward Gang's mansion. Gang, on the other hand, was attending an art auction where one of his sculptures was being sold. Each time someone called out a higher bid, his secretary raised it even more until the price reached $7 billion. But in a distant dark room, someone else was bidding, a shadowy figure pushing the price up. Gang grew suspicious, realizing it might be Park. He told his secretary to stop bidding and let the other buyer take it, admitting quietly, "I can't afford to pay anyway." The sculpture was sold to the man in the dark room. Gang applauded sarcastically, impressed by the clever trap. He and his men went upstairs to confront who they thought was Park, only to find the criminal himself alive in front of them. It turned out Park had saved him, taken him to the hospital, and recorded every confession he made. With this mountain of evidence, the police finally arrested Gang. When Park heard about the arrest, he told Chari calmly, "Don't celebrate yet. A man like him always finds a way out." And indeed, Gang went to prison dressed in a white suit and came out in the same spotless white suit without a single scratch. He returned home as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, our hero Park infiltrated Gang's mansion disguised as a worker stacking boxes. At the same time, Chari arrived home to find Gang's assistant standing there. Gang himself was at the hospital finishing off the wounded criminal. When the assistant saw Uni enter, she decided that Uni was a far better target and turned her attention toward her. A fierce fight broke out between them. Chari rushed to defend his daughter, but the woman stabbed him straight in the heart. Uni screamed and tried to fight back, and when Gang heard what happened, he drove at full speed. At the same time, Park was inside trying to steal the flash drive that contained evidence of all of Gang's crimes. Strangely, he found the same prisoner we saw at the very beginning sitting in the same chair, waiting for him. But Park fought through all of Gang's men, smashing the sculptures, breaking them apart, and using their sharp pieces as weapons. He finally defeated the prisoner and made his way to Gang. Gang glared at him and said coldly, "Did you really think you could come into my house and walk out alive?" Just as the final fight was about to begin, Uni appeared, held at knife point. Park dropped his weapon in shock, but the fight reignited instantly. Chaos erupted, blades flashing, screams echoing. In the blink of an eye, everyone was fighting everyone. The assistant collapsed unconscious from one of Park's hits. Gang fell to the ground, his strength finally fading. Park picked up the sword embedded in the flash drive that held all of Gang's secrets. Gang laughed hysterically through the pain, mocking him, begging, "Kill me, be like me, filthy with blood and sin." Park's anger boiled, but instead of killing him, he said coldly, "People like you don't deserve peace. You'll live, and you'll watch everyone else happy, clean, and free. That's the most painful life you can have." Then he drove the sword deep into Gang's shoulder, piercing through until it stuck into the screen behind him. As Park turned to leave, Gang screamed, "You'll leave me like this? Finish it!" Park looked back silently, struck him once more to knock him unconscious, and walked away, knowing the electricity sparking through the room would soon do the rest. Moments later, flames spread everywhere. The once glorious mansion became a river of fire. The statue Gang had sculpted for Park ended up becoming his own. The news broke across every channel, the full story of Gang and Park's innocence revealed. Uni sat beside her father in the hospital, relieved beyond words. The world finally knew that Park was innocent. In court, all charges against him were dropped. The same doors he once entered as a prisoner, he now walked out of as a free man. He went to visit Abram and his brother's grave, promising that his name had been cleared and justice restored. Life finally returned to how it used to be, his greenhouse, his friends, his work, all back to normal. Maybe the only change was that his beloved had been replaced by Uni, and his brother's place was now filled by Chari, though no one ever truly replaces a brother. And with that, our story comes to an end. Don't forget to share your thoughts and express your happiness for Park's victory, and for our channel. Thanks for watching.